You're listening to Podcasting for Robots. My name's Graham Brown. Thanks for tuning in. If you're listening because you want to start a podcast and you're a robot, sorry to disappoint. This is about human communication in the era of the machine. And that's really the challenge facing us as business leaders, is stepping up and humanizing our brands, becoming more human, becoming more vulnerable, and communicating with authenticity. Because everything else that we used to do is getting automated, and therefore there's no point us competing against AI in those tasks. What we have to do is focus on the stuff that the machine can't do, which really means focusing on human communication and doing that in a way that scales. And it's creating decentralized communication. And that's what podcasting is all about. It's like birds in the tree. You've got many birds singing to each other. How do we affect that? How do we empower it? And how do we be part of it? So I set up Pitch Media Asia just over 15 months ago, moving from Japan to Singapore because I wanted to start a podcast agency. And what I learned in the process is that people don't have a podcast problem. What brands have, and brands meaning anybody from an individual all the way up to some of our clients like AirAsia, McKinsey, and Xero, their problem isn't podcasting. Their problem is communications. Their problem is they're all undergoing massive digital transformation. And in that journey, they have to communicate change internally. They have to communicate who they are to partners and ultimately communicate that to their customers. So the challenge is a communications one, in which podcasting is one of the most effective tools available, because it's one of the few tools that enables them to tell stories in an authentic and human way in the many-to-many era. Yes, there are tools like TV and print, but these are one-to-many. What they need to do is empower their people and their networks to tell stories. So what I learned in the process was that people don't have a podcast problem. The problem is communications. And that is that $1 trillion business problem that I talk about in this book. So to solve that problem, we need to build a tool which is big enough to deal with a $1 trillion market. And that ain't going to be an agency. So we're building a communications platform for brands, a decentralized communications platform that sits inside brands. Think of it as a SaaS model, and that takes time. If you look at all SaaS businesses, 75% of them started off as consultants or advisors to their clients. And they just learned that actually we cannot solve this with human beings and bodies. We need to create tools. And then with those tools, which could be rudimentary Excel spreadsheets at the beginning, we then need to turn those tools into a democratized, decentralized platform. And that applies to companies like MailChimp, for example, or even if you look at Microsoft, started off coding for IBM, then they built their own platform, the Windows OS. This is the journey we're on, so we're all about working with you on this journey. How do we make that happen? How is that possible? So in this journey, we want to talk to, if you are a podcaster or involved in podcast production, then work with us. We have the relationships and the knowledge and the brand authority to sit at the top table with premium brands like AirAsia and Xero. And we're able to sit with them and influence and be part of the working relationships with those companies, which is great. We need partners to make that happen. So if you're in a production business, you're a podcaster, then you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's an expensive journey getting up that learning curve. We're already there. So partner with us and we can work together on making that happen. And I'll put my details at the end of this episode so you can contact me. If you're an agency, being PR, advertising, media, then work with us because we know what your brands want when it comes to communication. We know inside out what their communication challenges are. So let's work together. We can help work with you and craft a better product and solution for them. And if you're a brand yourself, let's talk. If you want somebody to come in and do podcasts, that's fine. But I'd like to start by looking at what your business problem is. And that is, what is your current business challenge and goal? And how do podcasts impact that? And that starts with running a workshop with your key change makers and stakeholders in this project. So that's how we can work together. That's Pitch Media Asia. Thanks for listening to Podcasting for Robots. Hopefully some of these messages are useful for you in your internal sales process. Some of these messages may be useful for you for understanding our philosophy and our manifesto for podcasting and communications generally. And it may encourage you to hit the send email button and start the communication with us, start the dialogue. So my name is Graham Brown. You can get me, GB, Graham Brown, GB at pitch.sg, GB at pitch, pitch.sg. That's how you can reach out to me. Love to hear about your thoughts and feedbacks on this podcast generally. And if there's any sort of business discussions that we can have together, just reach out.